Hello. Welcome to my room again. This week, Ruby and I are sharing some stories. And so yesterday we talked with Ruby about her experience with perfectionism, as that's been like a theme for her throughout her life. And then today, when Ruby gets here, we're going to talk about my experience with control. Yeah, I have really navigated a lot of my relationship with control. So, and not navigated successfully, I just mean navigated. Hi, Ruby. Here she comes.
Hello.
Hi, Ruby.
Hi, Kate.
How are you?
I'm pretty well. I just finished teaching and I'm trying to get set up. How do I want to set up? How can I be in the sun and also not be sweating?
Oh, I see. Yes, definitely. I get
Yes.
that.
I think I will sit in the floor.
It's so pretty in there.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to rain today. The weather all week said it was going to rain today, and it is not
Oh,
raining today.
what a win.
I know. Okay, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I actually just had a really great Zoom call and phone call, and I'm really excited about we're partnering with an incredible organization with Get Fit 6 on 5 in for March. For March's theme of awareness, and I just love how that happens.
I love that. Awesome. I
Yeah,
can't wait to hear more about that and see what that is.
I'll tell you all about it.
Cute.
I have
So go ahead.
I have shared with the people today that we are having story time week, and that yesterday we spoke with you and your experience with perfectionism, and that today we're going to talk about my experience with control. And I'm just gonna and so the reason that we're doing this is to share. So one thing that we'll do with the self-study program is each month we'll work with a theme. And so control won't be a theme that we work with, but it's more like, okay, so maybe a theme that we'll work with is awareness, and then it's awareness, and what then that practice is becoming aware of something like, for me, ways in which I try to control. For Ruby, ways in which she tries to perfect. And then the ways in which like that serves you or doesn't serve you, and how can you be in better relationship with something like that, like, because controlling everything is not always a good thing, and sometimes it is a good thing. um so yeah, so we're just wanting to share a little bit of like what our process is like, and what it's been like for us throughout our lifetime, in hopes that
Hmm.
maybe if it relates for you. And yeah, something that I said yesterday that I think is very important is like, our stories will not be parallel to yours, will not be the same as yours. And it is all about sharing experience, in
Hmm.
case, because when we do share experience, like, yeah, that creates connection and all the good things.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that you spoke to what the self-study will program will be like through the lens of the theme of awareness. And yeah, I guess what I would love to hear from you first is like, how did you come to awareness of your relationship with control? Or like, yeah, do you
Hmm.
remember a point when you became aware of control?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
Tell us about that.
I do remember it. And so, okay, so I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, and I really love the work of the Enneagram. You know what? I'm going to talk about the Enneagram for a second, because this is important. I think the Enneagram is a wonderful tool. I think that, like so many things, so many tools that exist out there, we also use it in a way to box ourselves in and to compartmentalize each other. We use it as a tool to judge other people. Like, when you find out that somebody, so my experience has actually sometimes been really negative in sharing with somebody my Enneagram number, because then all of a sudden they think that they know something about me. Um, and being a female eight, a cis female eight, has really been a challenge for me in my life. Um, and so when I share with someone that I'm an eight, there a lot of preconceived notions can come with that. And something that I am not in control of is how other people interact with um, knowing that I am an Enneagram, an eight on the Enneagram. Um, what people call the eights on the Enneagram is sometimes the challenger, which is fine because I'm down to challenge whatever it is. And um, I don't challenge things just to challenge things. I challenge it because I care about it. Um, and if I don't care about it, I don't challenge it. And so where I'm challenging is often a point where when people know and love me, that's a place that they're getting to see that I care about. Anyways, what comes along with being an eight on the Enneagram is also, we all always have skills that can be cultivated. And one skill that I have cultivated is awareness of my need to control. And a couple years ago, I think a couple years ago, I don't think I had been aware of the idea of control until this actually happened. But I was on the phone with a friend. I was really frustrated because I was trying to get somebody. I think that what this person number one is doing is causing harm. They work in the yoga space, and I feel very frustrated about them. Um, and their work, and she's a white woman, and I've really tried to like call her in, and I've tried to talk to her, and I've been really frustrated about this, and this happened a couple of years ago, and I called a friend of mine, and I was like so angry. I was like, okay, can you help me figure out like some different tactics, like how else can I come at this person to get them to do what I want them to do? And she kept asking me like inquiry questions, and she kept being like, well, what about this, or like, do you recall a time in which this has worked for you? And finally I was like, I don't know what you're fucking trying to say to me. Like, you're obviously trying to get me to go somewhere, and I don't know what you're trying to get me to see. So like, just as somebody who loves me, just tell me what the fuck is up. And she was like, okay, Kate, I think that this is part of your Enneagram showing up. And I think that I know that you deeply care about this. And the reason that you are feeling so frustrated by this is because this is something that you do not have control over. And so I think the part that's really frustrating for you is that you are not able to stop someone else from causing harm. That you can see that this other person obviously just isn't seeing, and they're not hearing you. And in the moment that she named it that, I was like, that ain't it. No, girl, it's not
No,
control.
that person's fucking up, and it's not about me.
Yeah, I was like,
Thank
no, no,
you.
no. It's not. This isn't me. Like, we're all upset at this other person. And she was like, yeah. And so since she named that for me, and that is my sweet dear friend Jess Denisco, um, after she named that and showed me that, now what I recognize is it gives me another option. Um, and it's given me another option to think about myself. It's given me another option in relationships to like choose something different. Um, and the other tactic that I was looking for at that time, like I basically wanted her to give me another way to say what I was trying to say. And she was like, there's not another way to say what you're trying to say because the person isn't listening to you and you can't force them to listen. So then the other options become take more time and connect with this person better, or set a boundary and back away from this. Like, you're not in control of them. If you need space from them, that is okay too. And so it's really given me another avenue.
Mhm. I'm a little curious about the way that, like, up until that point, how did that kind of like behavior of control going unnamed, can you think of any moment in your life where you're like, that actually worked? I came at it from another angle and I was able to control it. Like, can you see the way that like you have like up until that point? Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes.
I'm just curious.
Okay. It's been like throughout my life, it has been a great thing. Like, right? Like I started a business when I was 24 and I started a fitness, like a gym when I was 24, having never worked at another gym. So all I've gotten to do was go like, here's what everyone else is doing. I don't want to do any of that. I'm fully in control of this space, and every choice that I make impacts this space. And I have really specific ideas on what I want this to be like, what I want it to feel like. And even though that might be wildly different from any other space I've ever been to before, because I so tightly controlled that, some really beautiful things have been able to blossom from that. And I am really very proud of the ways in which when I feel strongly about something and when I am in control of it, I can create really beautiful things. The ways in which so I guess so when I have awareness for whether or not I'm actually in control of it. Because I think
Hmm.
that's where it can get that yeah, that's where I get messed up with it.
Yeah, that makes me think of like conversations we've been having this week, I think mostly offline, but about responsibility, maybe some
Hmm.
online in the past IGTVs. And like, is you can control what that which is your responsibility, but you can't fix or control that which is someone else's responsibility until they choose to
Yes.
take responsibility for it.
And
And then
something
you,
that
like, that's not you controlling it, that's them choosing.
yes, but and for me, control has felt yeah, in responsibility. What can I actually be responsible for? And so for me, those things are very much like coupled up. Like, am I actually yeah, because some negative ways in which it's impacted me is taken on the responsibility of someone else with that I'm in relationship with, um, taking their feelings as my responsibility, taking their work as my responsibility, um, yeah, whatever it is. And then what I recognize now is that that's often in me just showing up and trying to control a situation
Hmm.
that I'm not actually in control of. So yeah,
Hmm.
definitely responsibility and control are go together for me.
Yeah, and I hear you speaking a lot about like the way it's shown up in your work life.
Hmm.
Have you experienced it like a parallel in your personal life, in your personal relationships, like out of the workplace environment?
Hmm. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Can you think of
Yes.
an instance where like human to human, like in a one-on-one relationship where control kind of like got in the way?
Yes.
Do you want to share any about it?
Every relationship I've ever been in, it's like I can think of, okay, so one of the questions that we got the other day was, um, like, what do you do when you really need the other person to just get involved in their own self-work? First of all, whoever asked that question, I resonate with you because sometimes I'm like, oh, these things have really helped me. Let me give you all of these tools, make you do all of these things, and then we can come back together. We'll both be like in our own spheres of influence, and it's going to be great. Yeah, Huli, I hear you. My eight gals. Oh,
It
yes,
was
Carmen.
you,
Okay.
Carmen. It
Yes.
was.
Okay. What's up, Carmen? So here's the deal is that I can't control anything. about what someone else is doing, even someone that I love, even someone that I'm in relationship with. So, okay, so my relationship with my mom has come like just leaps and bounds, and you have gotten to see that, Ruby. And maybe like 6 years ago, when I did my very first yoga teacher training, I was like, great, I'm going to tell my mom all these things. And then, oh, yes, I love it, Carmen. I'm going to do all of these things, and then I'm going to tell my mom to do all of these things, and then we're going to be able to like better communicate. And it didn't happen like that. I know that it's shocking. I did a bunch of my stuff, and then I realized I have to keep doing my stuff. Oftentimes we want to control how others feel because we feel those emotions as well. Yes. So if the person
Oh,
feels sad, then I feel sad as well. Yes. And that is a way that empathy gets in our way of actually connecting with somebody. Yes. I know, Carmen. Sometimes I hear myself talk about how ridiculous it is, but then it's like, but when you're in it, it's really real. So, like, also giving validity to, because there are times where I'm like, fuck, if you would just do this, like, we could get somewhere. And it's like, yes, yes. Okay, so that feeling of agitation, like if you would just, I feel that way a lot. If you would just, and I think of it as being this really small thing, and also something that I've worked now like lifetimes on. So like, how can I switch the if you would just to to if I can? Like
mm-hmm,
what can I do here?
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so like for the like with my mom. Today's her birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, mommy. Like for my mom, if um I have wanted to my mom to change who she is to meet my needs better. And being in relationship with somebody who you actively want to change for you to be able to like be with them better. Like think about how shitty that has probably felt for my mom for such a long time, for me to be asking her to be somebody and to communicate with me in a way that isn't right for her,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And the fairness part is I have been unfair in that way to expect her to be anybody other than she is. And when
Mm-hmm.
I get grounded in the fact that like I want to be in relationship with her, I want to know her. And so how can I be more open about who I am with her? Because what I know about that is that it gives at least gives somebody else the opportunity to be more open with me. Whether she takes it or not is also again something I don't have
Mm-hmm.
control over. Um, but I will
Yeah.
say that my experience with my mom is that she has taken advantage of that, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's a very special thing that we get to have together.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, definitely. Um, I also think that one way control comes up for me is in like judgment, having a lot of judgments around the way that something should or should not be. Um, and that really, takes away from being able to be in a relationship with somebody thinking that there's a right or a wrong way to do it. I mean, literally anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got me thinking, and it's so interesting because, like, yeah, like yesterday I talked about perfectionism, and then control is like one of your things, and I really resonate with the control thing um, in a lot of ways. And then though I'm thinking about like some of my more intimate or like closer relationships, and I'm wondering about like how you navigate, and it may just be the way you are, striking a balance between caring about something deeply and being in a relationship in a way that gets your needs met while giving up some control. I don't know, like I'm listening to you speak and I'm like, sometimes I'm letting go of control. And what's actually happening is none of my needs are getting met
Hmm.
because there's not even like awareness. So I maybe even speaking to like your relationship with the phrase like letting go, which I think is like very like yoga phrase. And it's like, oh, just
Hmm.
let go, or like let go of control. And I think like in my experience, I've like taken that very to the extreme where it's like, it's not my job to fix or change anyone, but I will tolerate anything that they put me through.
Okay, sure. Okay. Wow, I have the perfect example for this. Um, okay. Yes, I hear that big time. So, okay. So, in August, I went out to Colorado because my sister had a baby. I adore my roommate. He is one of my very best friends in the whole world, and he loves to rearrange the whole house. He loves to do it, and he's always done it in every space that he lives. He loves it. And so, when I oh, and you should know that it drives me crazy. I hate it. I like for everything to be exactly in the same place where I put it, where I left it, even if it's like my desk, like shit is all over the desk, but I know where it all is. Like, and I don't want any of it to move. I like it like that. And so I go home. I come home after being in Colorado for a whole month, and the whole kitchen has been rearranged. And in the moment, I think I kind of like freaked out because I was like, I don't know where anything is anymore. And what I thought I was upset about was the fact that he had moved everything. I thought that was the issue. So I think I kind of like was like, fucking A, you keep moving everything. And then I thought, okay, but more importantly, Carmen, more importantly, I care about this person than I do about where the cups are. And so why am I so upset about the cup? And what I did a little bit of digging for myself, and I realized, like, especially in August, what I was feeling like was that nothing felt like home. Nothing felt in my control. The pandemic feels out of my control. My business feels out of my control because of the pandemic. Like so much in my life feels out of my control. And so if I can control where the cups go, then that's one thing. And so what I realized is what I ended up saying to him was like, hey, I hope that you know that this is not about you. That what I'm feeling is I feel out of control. And so when everything gets moved like that, it triggers this feeling of me being out of control. And then I take it out on you. When the reality is like I've missed you. I've missed our being in relationship and being at home with you. And also in us being in relationship, I need for you to understand that this is important to me. And then I think I went out of town, like, and so then I took like inventory of like where is shit in the kitchen so that I will know where it is. And then went out of town again. And the next time I came home, he had put some really key things like back into their place. And so it wasn't, I didn't do, okay, so I have tried to do a lot of that control work like internally, but the connection piece happens when I share the vulnerable part of that. So when I share the fact that I am upset because everything has been moved, I am upset. The self work is me going, really what is going on and how can I invite this person into this with me? Not into feeling what I'm feeling or into fixing what I'm feeling. Because he said very clearly to me, I'm going to be moving shit around. So you better get on board because we're going to be roommates, right? So, like, that was a way in which he said to me, this has to happen in order for me to be happy, right? So I've been going, like, okay, great. And I want you to be happy. So then I'm going to adjust a little bit in this way. But I also need you to adjust a little bit in this way.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes teamwork.
Yeah, being in discovery together.
Hmm.
And like actually like listening to you speak about that story specifically, two things come up. One, I imagine for him, moving things is a way that he gets to control things. And like it
Hmm.
is just human that we want to control things. And especially in a pandemic when, I mean, especially towards the beginning, right? I mean, even still, but when it was really like shit hit the fan, it's like we all are trying to control everything in our immediate sphere because everything else feels way out of control.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
and so
that's
control is part of safety.
mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the second piece being I'm just listening to you and realizing how incredibly selfish I've been in trying to deal with things that I have an urge to control without communicating how I feel, right? Like that kind of like, oh, I did all the inner work on my own, so like we're good and clear. I'm not bothered, but actually like I stole an opportunity from that other person for growth and connection and from myself. um yeah, like kind of like wasting an opportunity by thinking I can do it on my own.
Yeah, and I think like a lesson for me has been the pattern stays the same unless we invite the other person in, I think. Because
Mm.
like in the beginning when we moved in together, he'd move things and I kind of wouldn't say anything and it would like internally feel that like agitating thing. And then I'd be like, this is not in your control. And then I'd be like, and then it would feel fine until it would happen again. And I've stopped feeling that. Like even when I was in Athens with Ruby this past weekend and when I came home, things had been moved and to be honest, I left knowing that that was going to happen, and I came home kind of with this like sense of excitement to see where things had moved to, and it was a really
Yeah.
different experience for me this time.
Yeah, it makes me think of like yesterday when I was talking about perfectionism and how I don't even feel like I have to call it that anymore because I'm in relationship with that part of myself. And that's what it sounds like for you. Like because you've communicated it, because there is someone is on your team about it, because you are aware of what it feels like, it doesn't have to be so it just isn't so explosive, right? It takes like
Mhm.
some of the edge off of what it is and instead can be an indicator of like I care about this.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I like how you just used the word indicator. Because yeah, like a lot of things are indicative of please pay attention to this.
Yeah, most things, most feelings or like automatic responses are indicative of pay attention. This is something you care about.
Uh-huh. This is something you care about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, sometimes the hardest part is like I care about this and maybe there's nothing I can do about this. Maybe that's just it right now. And so like how do you sit with I care about this and I'm just going to sit with the discomfort of caring.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Without having to control the caring or without having to fix whatever it is that you care about. What if, because like what I know and what the, like Buddhist teachings teach and what yoga teaches is suffering exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can I care about that
Mm-hmm.
without having to control that?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, knowing that part of yourself and noticing the urge creates an opportunity in the moment. Like that awareness creates an opportunity of choice.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think something that's been really helpful to me is getting clear on, you know, getting clear on my values on whatever it is. Um, so sometimes my value is I really want to connect with this person. Okay, here's two separate things. Okay, so so when I think about the gym, something that's really important to me is like who we partnership with and why. So say we want to do something with, say like a yoga teacher reaches out to the gym and is like, hey, I would love to come and teach a yoga class with you. I love that. I love doing partnership things. And there are some very explicit and clear boundaries that I have on that and rules about who we will and will not partnership with because I have created such a specific, such a specific space and such a tender group of people who I really do care about. And so is it in their best interest to have a yoga teacher a really thin white girl yoga teacher come in and do a lot of like spiritual bypassing stuff? Uh, like that's not okay with me. And while that person might be a wonderful person who I care about, um, what I am in control of is whether or not they come into my space and whether or not I give them a platform.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that moment, the important part to me is not giving a platform to someone who I feel is irresponsible in their teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still respect that person as a person. And so when
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to them and when I'm in relationship with them, I can have those conversations and still not allow them to have a platform in my space. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah, like something I hear you, or like what comes up for me is how the awareness of control coming up. Because I know for me, in a similar scenario, sometimes I get like very like controlling, possessive feelings of like, this is my space. Like, how dare you think you can come in here? Do you not, have you not gone to my website? But that control really maybe being an ask within yourself of like, okay, like maybe a good next step is like, okay, what is the need that this situation is not meeting for me? And so like needs in your business or in your space or in your community are like safety, connection, awareness. These are needs that that are required to be met in your space in order for your space to be what it is. And so that moment of control is like, okay, I'm wanting to like fiercely control this. What's the need? Is it being met? Am I making sense of where I'm going with that? And then able to
Absolutely.
make like a grounded choice of boundary. So that's kind of how you get from like, I have an urge to control to this is a healthy boundary. Is like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle is a needs inventory. How do I make sure the needs that I'm responsible for getting met within myself or in this group or whatever get met? And
Yeah.
that's like something you can control or at least navigate um, ethically and responsibly and intentionally.
Yes. And then coupled with responsibility. Okay, have you watched what is the show? It's a show on Netflix and it's about this girl who becomes like a dominatrix. It's called like bonding or something. Bonding. I think it's called
No.
bonding. Anyways,
Okay.
I loved it. It's 30-minute episodes and anyway, so this lady is she's like she basically has a mentor in becoming a what did I just say? Oh, a dominatrix.
Dominatrix.
Yes. And one thing that her mentor says is, and the woman is a black woman, that feels very important. Privilege, leadership is not a privilege. Leadership is a responsibility. And so I think a way in which I feel as though maybe in the past couple of years, control for me has been heavy is that because I am a leader in one space, I have now taken on the role as leader all the time. I am a 100% of the time leader. And so now I must be unreasonably responsible all the time, which means I feel like I have to be unreasonably in control of what everyone else is doing around me. When the reality is, what I am in control of is the one space in which I'm a leader. I am in control of that way. And even still, I believe in like creating collective control. And so that means sharing responsibility, sharing elements of control. Um, and that's been a practice and for sure something that is a challenge for me because I am used to being in full control. Um, and I more so care about relationship and have had to open up to the fact that other people can be leaders in this very space just as well, if not better than I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You are in control of how much in that situation, how much power you share,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
you are as the owner in control of how that power gets delegated and used.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a
Yeah,
responsibility.
yes, and one that I do not take lightly. And um, what I am recognizing is, and it's become a wall though. My idea of leadership, I think, has, and like I'm still like very much exploring this, but like what I don't want for my relationship with responsibility to become is a wall that keeps people out of being in relationship with me.
Hmm.
Because what it is not fun is to be in relationship with somebody who's trying to control you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that person for people. So I would more rather not be that person for people than to be in control of what they're doing. Because
Yeah,
it's
and
more vulnerable for me to let somebody be on their side of
mhm.
the street.
And that's a reworking of the definition of leadership for sure. I feel like I've gathered a lot of that kind of thinking from Brene Brown.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Control.
Control.
Yeah, and then what the other thing that people say about eights on the Enneagram is that we don't know how to be vulnerable. And that shit is not fucking true. It's a practice for everybody. There's not some number on the Enneagram that's awesome at vulnerability. Like, damn. And also, when you always look to the eight in your life to be the person who stands up during hard times to say the hard thing, yes, it makes it scary to imagine letting somebody else into that. Um, and like especially this year, um, there have been a lot of people who have always applauded me for the challenging things that I have to say and the ways in which I call people in. There are a lot of people who love to stand on the sidelines and be like, hey, Kate, I think you're doing a great job. And um, there was a time over the summer where I asked a few of these folks who have been really loud supporters of me in the past to show up with me, and it felt very vulnerable for me to ask for them to get involved because I know that I don't have any control over that, whether they do or not. And I asked quite a few of these people, like, hey, can you do this thing? And a lot of people did not show up, did not step up to the opportunity, did not step up to the plate. And so a narrative that eights get is like, well, you don't know how to ask for help. And a lot of times the the real truth is that people do not always show up when you ask for help. And so when that's it's not that we don't know how to ask for help. It's that it's
Well, and I think that that's like a common, like that's just like common humanness, right? Like now I have a control and a trust issue because I mean, at some point early on that probably happened, and then you have awareness around it, and then you try it again, and then it still happens, and then it's like I will just control the
yes.
situation because I can't trust anyone to step up and show up with
Yes.
me.
Okay, that's a big question that I have had to learn how to ask is like, do you want me to tell you what I think? Do you want me to listen? Do you want, like, what are you wanting right now? Do you even want to grow in this kind of way? Because if you don't, then I can sit here and listen and like be with you in a different kind of way. But yeah, me getting clear on even how does this other person want me to be with them in this moment?
Right, instead of having come in wanting to control them and having decided that what they need to do is XYZ, and maybe that
Hmm.
is true, but we can't control that. It's like we talked about earlier in this IGTV, like you can't make someone else do their work,
Mm-mm.
and you can't do their work for them. And
Mm-mm.
so it comes back to it really, I mean, it comes back to like the phrases for cultivating trust, and the
Hmm.
one I've been working with, I'm responsible for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and especially these days, like people love the idea of like a strong, independent woman, I notice. And though then once the strong, independent woman behaves strongly and independently, and like in their own like sphere of influence, that's actually really challenging for people. We have a very like culturally we're relatively, I mean, yeah, like codependent. Like Britt Hawthorne really drove that one home for me, this idea of codependency. Um, mhm. Anyway, Emma
Mm-hmm.
Bella, come up here then. She wants to be in it too.
Hi, Emma.
Ruby, I just want my mom to let me out of this room.
Oh, I see, I see. Okay, what has your relationship, last little short question. What has your relationship with yourself around the topic of control opened up or like given possibility to?
Ugh, it gives me like I get to have more fun. Um, I get to share the load. That's the biggest one. I get to share the load. Um, okay, for instance, like Ruby, you built out our whole the self-study website. You built out the whole thing. I don't even think I know how to log into the back end of that. Well, I built out most of the Duality Project website. So when you started building that out, I was like, Ruby is going to realize that she doesn't need me for anything because all I was good for is the website build out. Let me let her out of the room. All I'm good for is the website build out. And like, yeah, I'm not, she must believe that I'm not doing like my part of the work and like blah, 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 blah. And finally, I said to you, I feel like I'm not doing as much as you. And you were like, I know that you feel that way. I'm having a great time building out this website. It's good. And I was like, ah, like I can just not worry about that now because it's your job now to say to me, hey, I need your help with this because now this is just obviously your thing. And I feel like such a breath of fresh air. And even like about that thing and also within our relationship because for me like if there's some sort of like thing like that, that hovers for me. Like I really hold on to something like that for a while, and it will affect my capacity to be in relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just name it and say it, then we get to do it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting how uh, the want to control becomes controlling. So like, so
For
like,
me,
yeah, like you wanting to even control like your output or control your role, then if it's not shared, controls how you interact and your enjoyment of the work and like how the experience gets played out. The
totally.
control controls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
and what
and
I'm speaking to is like speaking it into existence in the relationship kind of airs it out and gives it some space and then like somewhere to move into and like kind of like a preservation of sorts versus like you could just be in your head about this thing that you can't control right now that you feel like kind of weird about, and then that would control how you show up in the experience you have.
Yes. And then what that has always just led to me is just burnout. I will have these like big major crashes. Um, and it's funny, I haven't had a big major crash like that in quite some time, which is wild. And
Mm-hmm.
also, yeah, because I'm getting more sleep now.
Because you don't have to, because you've decided what is and isn't in your control.
And the
You sleep
pandemic
better
has
at
been
night
like,
and you have
LOL, girl.
you sleep better at night and you have more time to sleep.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And because I get to really be like, that is someone else's thing. And if they need me, they're responsible for asking me that. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm able to say to somebody, like I said to my team on a phone call a couple months ago, their feedback from me was like, hey, we don't feel like we've been communicated with about XYZ. And in that moment, we've talked about like the switch thing. And in that moment, the first thing that came up for me was like, oh my God, I've done a bad job of this. And then it was like, okay, let's unpack that like really quickly. And then I realized that some of the things that they felt like they hadn't been communicated with about, I actually had made documents about, and that they had access to these documents. And so I, in fact, had communicated all of this stuff, and it was all written down in this document. And so I was able to say to them, hey, you actually have tools. One of the tools is this document that I've made. So everybody go read the document. And if we still have questions after that, then we can talk about it. Also, if you have questions, they are your responsibility to ask me. What are you just going to wait around until I randomly come up with the fact that you might have some question in your body that you need to ask me? Like, that is unfair and unreasonable. And when I realized that I thought that they were being unfair and unreasonable to me, I was like, I've been unfair and unreasonable to me about this kind of thing. And so now, like, this is an adjustment for all of us, because in the past, I would have said, I'm so sorry, let me fix this. And now but really, there's nothing for me to fix. Now I've said, this is your responsibility. Look it up in the document. Ask me. Call me the fuck up. You know how to call me. You know that I'm open and available to having this conversation. Do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have more open conversation because I gave that responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not needing to control everything anymore empowers those around you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it's like I gave them permission to engage with me differently. For some folks, that has been a breath of fresh air. For some people, it's been tough. And I
Yeah.
guess it maybe feels like tough love or something, but that's not what I mean for it to be. It's just if me giving you back the responsibility that I think that we all inherently have, um, I imagine that, yeah, I get why that feels like tough
Yeah,
love or
for
whatever.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Um, cool. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for asking me all those questions, Ruby.
I feel like I learned a lot about control.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I learned a
some
lot about perfectionism yesterday.
that's so funny because we got off the call and then I texted you like, "Wow, I feel like a chaotic hot mess and like nothing that I said makes sense." And I was like, "LOL, that's my perfectionism speaking." I was like, "I did not know the questions. I did not answer them clearly. I did not articulate or communicate as I know I can." And then I was like, "God dang it, Ruby! Like here it is."
Yeah, here it is. And like for me, the way that would show up is in for control is like I want someone. We talked about this a little bit, like about the understanding piece. Like I know, like yes, we have a responsibility to communicate whatever, but like um, I can't force someone else to understand me, and that's a way in
Mm-hmm.
which I think whether it's perfectionism for me, it feels like control for me, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it feels like. Yeah, but I can't control someone into understanding me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand me, and then the only thing I can do is just be honest.
Hmm.
and tell the truth.
Yeah. So good. I
Hmm.
don't wonder what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
Okay, listen, we would love for somebody else to join us. So, like Cooley, Carmen, Squad, we would love to have this conversation with you. So, if you are interested in joining us for one of these lives and to do a little bit of this, like, like I've learned about myself, I learned about you yesterday, like, do a little bit of this, like, unpacking process, um, would love to have that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we would love to have you for the self-study program. So go ahead and apply or sign up for an inquiry call with either of us in our bio links. And
Hmm.
this is the kind of conversation that we can be having as a community, and you don't have to do your inner work alone.
Hmm.
And that's what the self-study is for like
Hmm.
giving you a space to unpack and get to know yourself better, and not alone, but
Hmm.
with other people who care about this stuff too.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Wow, thank you so much
Also,
for
our
sharing.
Zoom call. What day did we decide? Look,
Tuesday.
Tuesday, next Tuesday, um, at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's what we decided. We're gonna have a Zoom call, and the Zoom call
What are
is
we
just
gonna
gonna
do?
be, well, we're just gonna chit chat. We're just gonna talk. We're gonna answer any sort of questions that you have about the self study. Um, Yeah, I mean, come with any sort of topic. If you just kind of want to come in and listen, totally fine. But yeah, we want to like get in a space where we can just like talk with you and answer questions. And something that's important is where you have questions, so does someone else. And what also I will say is not only do we want to have that space for you to ask those questions, when you ask us questions, it gives us some perspective on places like I just talking about. How can we better show up to answer those questions on the front end? Like, how can we do a better, like that helps us be better too. Um, so it is both supportive of you to ask your questions and it is supportive of us for you to
Hmm.
ask those questions and to give us the opportunity to answer them instead of just being like, I don't know where to find that information out. Ask us.
Hmm.
We want to talk to you.
Hmm.
There's links in our bios for you to call. We want to have the Zoom call. We want to be in community about it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
We'll have
Join the
more.
self
We'll
study
have more
program.
info. Yeah, we'll have more info about the Zoom call by Friday. And in the meantime, apply for self study.
Yay.
Okay, love you.
Love you too, Ruby.
Bye.
Bye.